Today I'm starting work on a pair of tongs. I'm using a piece of 3/8 by 3/4 flat bar. And because I'm going to be doing a lot of measuring at the anvil, I'm going to install the anvil ruler that I made in an earlier video. This pair of tongs is for the Forging It Forward group. My contribution in the next giveaway is a pair of wolf jaw tongs. The pair of tongs that they wanted to include in their package is based on a pair of bolt tongs, but it has a bit that is modified to hold several different stock sizes. So what I'm doing today is basically just playing around with forging out a couple of sets of jaws, and I'll see how they turn out and I'll go from there. If they work out all right, I'll be finishing this pair of tongs and sending them out. If not, in all likelihood, I'll be cutting these off and starting fresh using what I've learned from making these two halves of the pair of tongs. As always, keep track of everything that you're doing so that any modification that you need to do is just going to be very easy because you know what you started with. And as always, I'm using a bar that's a lot longer than I need so that if I do decide to scrap these jaws, I have enough length in the bar to continue on and make another set. So this is the whole process. I had about an hour today to play around with this idea, so this is what I came up with. The only thing that isn't included in this video is the downtime when the steel was actually in the fire, and at one point my memory card was full and I didn't realize it in time, so I lost a little bit of footage there. Otherwise, every step of the process has been documented, and you're basically watching it just as if you were standing next to me in the forge. So at this point I have two sections defined. The very end is the actual jaw of the tong, and the tapered section behind it is going to be turned into the curved section of the bolt tong. Here I'm estimating where I need to put the offset that's going to define the front edge of the hinge area for the pair of tongs. Once I have that section defined, I'm going to move over to a section of the anvil that has a larger radius so I don't cut a sharp corner in at that point. When you're making prototypes, don't be in a hurry. Take your time, examine it from all angles, do a lot of measuring, try to estimate how the thing's going to look when it's in its final shape. This not only helps you with your abilities to estimate how something should be made, it helps you to lock in a picture of how something should look midway through the process. And I think that's something that a lot of beginners overlook. They know what the finished product should be and they have an idea of where to start, so they have a stock size that they want to use. But the steps in between are quite often fuzzy, and that's where the project can quite often take a left-hand turn and not, turn out at all the way you expect. So today you're going to see me spending a lot of time just looking at the thing, turning it over, giving it a couple of hammer blows, taking another look at it. This is all things that you need to do to get familiar with how to forge something out. As you gain experience, you'll be able to do a lot of this mentally, just run the pictures through your head to get the process down. But nothing beats actually forging out an actual sample, and then once you have all that tied together, when you get to the final piece, you just forge it and it'll look like you've been doing it all your life. I'm going to be using a small fuller to rough in the shape of the jaws. I want to do this now while the blank is still straight, and it's much easier to do. I'll be doing the final shaping later when I actually size the jaws of the tongs, but right now I just want to rough in the shape so that it's already started. I would normally lay out both sides of the jaw in one heat, but the camera's in the way, so I had to reheat it and set it in the vise in the other direction so I could hammer from the same side. Here I'm starting to work on the curved section of the jaws. Normally I would use my bender for this, but I just wanted to show you how to shape it freehand over the horn of the anvil. And here I'm laying in the offset that defines the length of the hinge area. Generally you want it to be just a little bit longer than the thickness of the bar. So I'm using a 3/4 inch piece of metal, so I'm making the length of the hinge roughly an inch. And the reason I do that is because I know that I'm going to gain a little bit of width as I'm punching the hole for the pin. So that'll make up the difference in the length, and it should come out fairly even. And here I'm starting on the second half of the pair of tongs, so I'm going to be using exactly the same process to make this half. I'm going to be using the jaw that I've already roughed out as a gauge to establish all the thicknesses that I need for the different parts. All I need to do is rotate it around until I can get the thicknesses to match up. So that's all the time I have today. Next time I'll clean up the overall shape and hammer out the reins, and if all goes well, I'll actually put them together.